tonight we'll be joined by Mr. Cruz of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, USA. So please can you greet our viewers, mostly from the education sector, students, teachers, parents, administrators, and stakeholders from our sector. Mr. Cruz.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for having me. And I hope I provide you all what you need or what you like to hear as far as community college education in East Tennessee.
Yes. So maybe we can start from like what kind of interest did you actually have as a young person? When and how did you actually decide to undertake your field of study?
When I graduated from high school, I remember my father told me to take up engineering, mechanical engineering, because he says there's a lot in mechanical engineering. As I found out in mechanical engineering, you can be a designer.
Yes.
You can be in maintenance or in manufacturing, or you can be in the power production. And I found out, and I found that is true as far as mechanical engineering. And it's very interesting, especially in the early part. How do I apply what I learned from school?
Exactly.
So, in as I go along, it's not all theoretical per se as far as engineering is concerned. It's the challenges as far as as far as especially when I'm mostly on the design.
Yes.
So
do you remember what kind of experiential learnings you undertook so that you will develop the skills and competencies that you would need in your field, as you were saying, application of what you have studied in school?
Well, of course, as far as when I was back in the Philippines, my experience is mostly at office. It's mostly clerical at that time. And then I was hired by a local manufacturing firm. We manufacture electrical wires and cables, and what I remember doing is production report. Are we meeting production? So those kind of things. And then after a year, I tried something different, and when I saw an opening to a manufacturing firm, another manufacturing firm, it manufactures polyester fiber, and I was hired, and I was in the quality control, and different, and in quality control, it's totally different from what my experience in the electrical in electrical wires and cable, as far as production output and everything. But in quality control, we try to find what the end users
would like.
feedbacks are. Yeah, we like to find what their feedbacks are as far as our product is concerned. So from there we relay whatever the customers are encountering through to our production people.
So what kind of proficiencies did you actually develop as qualities to be in your current career right now? As you mentioned, of course, your studies in mechanical engineering and having this experience in both production in electrics as well as quality control. What other skills and qualities do you think mechanical engineers or those who like to be in your field should develop?
As far as where um, I am right now, I am in design. I am in plant design, and this involves well diversified topic in mechanical engineering. It could be in sizing of pipe,
Yes.
sizing of pump, um, and then complying with the requirements. It could mostly this is requirements due to standards like ASME B31 code compliance. It could be B31.1 for power production, or B31.3 for chemical process. So whenever there are changes, we try to see uh, that any changes that we are implementing are meeting all the requirements. So
Yeah.
over the year, as far as my career is concerned, I'm exposed to mostly nuclear power plant, and
Exactly.
and uh, and and uh, and through the nuclear power plant, it's mostly it's totally regulated, and we have and the utility company has to comply to all the design requirements imposed by NRC, and of course the standards. And the NRC is a branch of federal government, oversees the nuclear industry.
Yeah, so maybe we can discuss a little bit, sir, where you are currently, which is Oak Ridge, and I'll give a little bit of introduction to our audience about the importance of Oak Ridge. So Oak Ridge was actually the facility that developed the atomic bomb during World War II. So it continues to be a federal funded research center. And actually, one of the main issues that we face in the Philippines right now, of course, is about power generation. So in the 1970s, the Philippine government actually contracted Westinghouse in order to put up a nuclear power plant in Bataan. But since its actual construction in that specific location, the nuclear power plant has never been operational since that time. But the Philippine government continues just to maintain this facility. So I think maybe you could tell us a little bit about nuclear power plants, what it really is insofar as power generation is concerned, and why countries, for example, like the United States, continue to use nuclear as a source of energy.
As I said, nuclear power plant is environmentally friendly as far as uh, greenhouse effect.
Is concerned, yes.
Um, however, as as far as the um, handling of use fuel,
Mhm.
that is still a big issue. How do the industry like to process them? We have a lot of design they like to bury them in underground.
That's one way.
And yes, and that's I've been away from a nuclear industry for a while, so but I remember I'm coming across to a lot of design features as far as handling the waste. Crystallization of them is one, and some other ideas, even sending out to the space, and
Yes,
that is kind of shot in the moon. However,
yes,
as far as my experience in nuclear industry, it's very uh, awakening to me because there are a lot of requirements, seismic requirements, and I believe that's the reason why they never uh, give an operating license to the Bataan nuclear power plant is because of multiple seismic issue
activity.
offshore offshore the Bataan plant, and that is true also in one of the nuclear power plant owned by TBA, the Diablo Canyon of the Pacific Ocean. Eventually, they closed it out because they are the seismic fault in California is very much alive, and every time they would discover new fault line, and
Yes,
and 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 Diablo Canyon has been its seismic design has been revised accordingly to update to any new seismic fault that the seismologists found. So that's
yes,
the thing. But the the total the total design of the nuclear power plant is to make sure it's working safe.
yes,
It's make sure when it's safe, it means to say that um, in any accident, just like the 3 Mile Island
yes,
or the Chernobyl, that there's no release of radioactive materials that could affect not only, of course, the equipment, the people, the operator, but most of all, the people within 50-mile radius.
yes.
Those are, and that's the reason why it takes a lot of planning and a lot of review by NRC as far as giving uh, all the licenses or extending the licenses for the existing nuclear power plant. And still, that's the reason why utilities are still very much relying on whatever nuclear power plants. Some of them are more than 30 years old and still operating safely.
Yes. What can you say, Mr. Cruz, about the designs or plans, for example, of countries that utilize more nuclear plants? For example, Japan, which is really also seismically active insofar as they have a lot of earthquakes and volcanoes. And one of the main accidents that happened there was in 2011 when they had a tsunami and an earthquake in the Tohoku region in the Fukushima Dai nuclear power plant. So, but insofar as design or planning is concerned, you mentioned about the safety requirements. So it wasn't until that time that they really had this major accident. But insofar as their energy requirements are concerned, almost all of their energy requirements are actually from nuclear power production.
Correct, correct. As I understand, in the nuclear industry community, there is no two accident happening at the same time.
Yes.
That is the concept of when you are designing, especially the nuclear plants. They don't consider seismic event and tsunami
Yes.
together acting.
Yes.
The design is mostly purely seismic, but you
Mhm.
don't consider tsunami. But it so happened that nature
Yes.
dictates at this time. We and 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 as I understand, they were prepared for the Japanese were prepared, and they have their standby generator. However, when the seawater
Breathe.
breach the wall, they cannot generate any power, and that's the reason why the the ceiling blows up, because there are accumulation of hydrogen, and
Yes.
that's the main reason. And 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 every uh, and every postulated accident that they uh, conceived was executed during design, but we cannot control nature at this time. Yeah.
Yes. So right now, what do you think are the prospects between environmentally energy production and the possibility of the need for more energy demands? Because nuclear power production is a definite answer to both being environmentally friendly and also in terms of the cost of production of energy. Do you see that there could be a balance achieved through design of plants that is going to be responsive, as you said, to the possibility that these kinds of natural occurrences may happen?
As you can see, uh, you may see the emergence of wind power and the solar power.
Yes. Mm.
However, with the last incident in Texas, where
Yes.
where the windmill was frozen,
Yes.
so,
Out and
so yeah,
power outage.
yeah, so
Yes.
they are back to the design and drawing board,
Mhm.
trying to correct the fault in their design. But I think this is a good lesson learned, and I believe there would be a balance. There would
Mhm.
be a balance on nuclear, solar, and solar and wind, because these industries create job,
Yes. Mhm.
and I am for that. As far as creating job, and especially I believe, if most of the solar power are hopefully are coming back to America, because
Yes.
right now
Wow.
most of the solar panel are being made in China, and
Yes.
even the turbines. So
Mhm.
I believe there will be a balance,
Mhm.
depending on, as far as America is concerned, depending on who is in the White House.
Yes. So there's a lot of potential, Mr. Cruz, insofar as this field, as you've mentioned, of mechanical engineering, eventually going into the designs of different plant production. It's really expanding the concepts and the knowledge that you have learned conceptually from your field. So what can you say to young people if they are interested to eventually go into this field? What kind of interest and experiences should they be looking at so that they could eventually aspire to have such a career like yours, to go into plant design and planning, as you've mentioned, because these are very vital industries for our modern economy.
I I would recommend for young people, see for themselves where they are, where they are good at. Are
Yes,
they good at solving problem?
yes,
Are they good in complex problem? I don't know how the how high schools students are being prepared. Back in the Philippines during my time. When I was in high school, I have advanced algebra and advanced trigonometry, and that is I was able to use during my first year in college.
yes,
And nowadays, I believe it's more advanced
yes,
as far as those subjects are concerned. And I believe if our young kababayan are looking for um, a job as far as engineering, they could be they can be in computer engineering.
yes.
And I
That's
believe
wonderful.
I heard a lot of our young kababayan are even good in coding, and I believe I even remember one Filipino was recruited by FBI to counter um, hack,
Yes,
and 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 so those are the things I can advise to our young kababayan, that if they have those qualities, they can explore you know uh, engineering. In engineering, it could be mechanical, electrical. Electrical is another discipline that are in need because we have a lot of just like me, who's ready to retire,
yes.
and we are looking for, yes, we are looking for young people to replace us.
Yes. But I think one of the priority areas really in the Philippines, since we moved also to the K-12 system, it was only 4 years ago, Mr. Cruz, that we moved to the K-12 system with senior high school. So we really want to encourage science, technology, engineering, and mathematics among our high school students to track. And as you've mentioned, there's a passing of the torch between generations. As you said, you are wanting for young people to actually replace those who are going to be retired from the field. And yet, of course, we really want to encourage young people to develop this interest in the sciences and the mathematics, something which is also a challenge for us as a educator. So it was a Filipino who actually developed the I love you malware virus in the computer. So we see that there's proficiencies, but maybe they really have to be channeled and they have to be honed further to achieve that kind of achievement that you have. Nuclear or power plant planning and design is, as you said, more complex, more complicated. So more advanced studies are really required for that. So I would like to really ask you, what can you say to the young people to encourage them to at least develop, if they have some aptitude, to maybe explore sciences and mathematics really as a possible field of study and eventually a career, as you have done already?
um, well, as far as if they have that qualities, I believe all I can say is uh, be aggressive,
Mhm.
uh, uh, see what the end use, what you are trying to achieve. It's, it's for a long run, you know. It's gonna be part of your life. So I would just say, explore, read a lot, of course, definitely, and if you are in a school, be active. Any anything that you don't understand as far as the basic principles, the fundamentals, ask your teacher, or form a group among themselves, and try to learn from each other. What do they understand?
Yes.
And of course, teachers or professors are always there for them to tell them, or to explain to them. And I believe these young people who are very inquisitive
Yes.
has a
Curious.
lot. It's a very promising when it comes to the job. That's my experience. They move, uh, and they can, and of course, not only as far as uh, in your profession, there is also personal relationship. That's part of also it's part of our engineering. Yes,
And development. Personal
yes.
development.
And as far as I just like to add, or ask you a question. You know, at work, we have 4 or 5 summer intern.
Yes.
And do we, by any chance, have that format back in the Philippines?
Yes, actually, right now for our academic programs, or in the senior year level of our academic programs in engineering, usually they would be required to undertake an internship or a practicum for a number of hours as part of the academic requirement. So depending on the kind of field that they are taking, so as you said, if it's computer engineering, usually it's in an IT company, or if it's electronics and communications, in a broadcasting company. So of course, the difficulty that we have, sir, this model of experiential learning is more apparent in Europe in the dual technology courses, because we lack companies and industries where the students can actually do the practicum or internship. There are many more students than there are companies. So they may not necessarily have the exposure that is required really for them to be familiar with the industry standards. So that's why we also want to promote, sir, international exchange programs and internship, because if it's not available in the Philippines, then we could definitely partner with other academic institutions. For example, where I'm located in University of Tennessee, to have international exchange programs for different academic fields for part of the capstone research, or could be also part of the academic requirements before they graduate
Mhm.
from their academic programs. So I think that's going to be further developed in the future. As I
Mhm.
said, K-12 was only fully implemented in the Philippines in 2016. So that's just 4 years ago. Very, very recent. So there's a lot of development that needs to be done right now in Philippine education. So
Mhm.
we're looking forward to developing those kinds of opportunities for our students and recent graduates.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, I just like also to add, as far as other vocational studies like welding or
Yes.
electrician, or I think welding is a big subject, and that
Yes.
is always in the construction industry, or even
Yes.
the manufacturing industry.
Mm.
Of course, there is also welding in engineering,
Yes.
and 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 this and welding is, I didn't realize that it is a big subject. It
And
not until I joined an engineering firm, and I said, what is in welding?"
yes.
And I just learned there are a lot of requirements, code requirements, standards that you
Yes.
that you- that we have to comply with, and
Yes.
that is um, something I learned too.
Yes.
That we have to deal with those subjects in every design.
Yes.
So
So one
that's
of
what.
the Yes.
Go
So I've
ahead.
actually visited the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, and they have a welding certification course in
Yeah.
TCAT. And so that's also part of the research being done, sir, in community colleges as well as in relation to technical education. Because it was also in 2014 that a law was just passed about the Philippine Qualifications Framework. So it means that right now, there's a separate track for students to study if they want to undertake technical education. For example, welding is part of technical education, but welding is not necessarily a part of the baccalaureate or bachelor's degree program in engineering. So that's why if we are able to develop more transferability of skills between technical education and the academic programs, then we may find that the students have more skills after they finish a particular set of programs or courses. So for example, in the state of Tennessee, what has happened is that a student can decide after high school to go first to a college of art applied technology, and then he can still decide to go to a community college, and it will be credited the work that he has done in the College of Applied Technology. And then if he finishes an associate degree of science, for example, as you mentioned in electronics, from the community college, he can continue to go to university or college, and the associate degree is going to be transferred or credited towards the completion of a bachelor's degree. So this is the kind of subject that I am currently researching on, if this model of education can be adopted in the Philippines because of certain requirements on the educational institutions, on the training of the faculty, and of course the design of the program itself, like how we would actually design for such a program to be adopted in the Philippines. So right now we're really undergoing a kind of educational revolution in the Philippines, or to really meet the challenge of, as they say, the fourth industrial revolution right now.
Wow, that's another interesting to know as far as industrial revolution.
Yes.
I wish Philippines uh, can be can compete with, of course, as far as Asia is concerned. We have China, we have
And
Korea, South Korea, Japan, and of course Taiwan. How how can the Philippines attract
yes.
foreign investment to invest in the Philippines, uh, and if they found that we have a lot of uh, talent
Yes.
that through education that they can use in manufacturing, then that's good. And and that's good for the Philippines. It's not right now. I understand the Philippines uh, earn their revenue is mostly through remittance.
Yes, from the overseas Filipino workers. Or for example, in the United States, there are already 4 million Filipinos just in the United States. But based on the statistics, there are approximately 10% of our current population of 110 million Filipinos being outside as migrant workers. So, of course, this is a phenomena that actually, of course, improves our economy. But in terms of gross domestic product inside the Philippines, it doesn't really improve our economy itself or our capacity, as you said, for direct investments or production capacity. So, as you mentioned, one of the key elements, of course, of the development of an economy would be on the manpower training and development, which is really education. So I think maybe one of the models that we're looking at is if we can pattern our educational system, especially in sciences and mathematics, to approximate that of India. I'm sure you have met colleagues from India in your particular field, especially in science, technology, and engineering. Then I think there's a lot more in terms of knowledge migrant workers coming out of the Philippines rather than on the lower skilled level of workers that are currently comprising our migrant workers outside the Philippines. So I think maybe this is like one of the possible strategic areas that the Philippines can prioritize. That's why I think there's a lot of interest now to really develop the sciences and mathematics and technological fields for education.
You know, you may have heard about the PLCP technical school.
Yes, I have.
I believe, in general, when Governor Haslam was still a governor, he passed. Is that a state law, honey? That they whoever no, they are offering
Yes.
2 years free education if you are a STEM student. You may have heard about that. So
Yes,
I
actually,
believe,
yes.
yeah, I believe.
I've been studying it, sir. First of all, I was studying about the Drive to 55 initiative that was started actually in 2012. So that 55% of all residents of Tennessee will have a post-secondary education credential. And then, of course, in 2015 is the Tennessee Promise. So as you mentioned, if they are coming from high school and of course residents of Tennessee, they could be given tuition fee community college education for 2 years. Actually, sir, in 2018 in the Philippines, we started a program which is like Tennessee Promise. So right now, from 2018 until now, we have the so-called Unified Financial Assistance for Tertiary Education so that students who are admitted to public universities and colleges like my own university in the Philippines, University of Pasig City, they are entitled to free tuition fee, free laboratory fees, and free miscellaneous fees. So, but of course, this is limited because there's a quota for every school because it is provided by the national government. Then we have to actually limit the number of our students.
Well, at least that's a good incentive for those students or for those who are qualified to pursue.
Yes.
So that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in fact, as far as that state-wise policy, I believe Obama during that time was trying to implement the same policy, but was not or didn't pass through the Congress.
Yes.
But just the same as far as state of Tennessee, that is still the standard that especially if you are a STEM student
Yes.
and if you apply for a 2 year at any community college, then you are it's a totally free.
Yes, exactly. And also even the University of Tennessee, sir, so they have also institutionalized University of Tennessee Promise. So for those who will eventually study in the University of Tennessee, as you know, there are many campuses of Tennessee, of University of Tennessee. So they could also be given a scholarship to complete their bachelor's degree, not only until the community college level, but until the bachelor's degree program. So that's why in studying about the Tennessee model, it is actually stated as one of the best educational models in the United States currently.
Mm. I
Yes.
I didn't know that, but all I know is that as far as any student who are qualified, they can have a tuition free in any community college. But as far as being the best in the state, wow, that's a good news and a compliment from being a Tennessean.
Yes, exactly, sir. And so I think, we've really discussed a lot of very important aspects, I think, of like young people deciding about their field of study, what they will be interested in. And I think to really emphasize about science and technology, especially because it is really needed in the Philippines. And of course, it is encouraging for our young people to aspire to be, for example, like yourself, someone who has been successful in a career involving science and technology, to possibly think if they have such an interest and aptitude in the field, to be encouraged to try. So maybe you can give, sir, some of your last remarks to our listeners and viewers about what you would take away if you will, well, as you mentioned, retire, but hopefully you will continue making that contribution in your field of study, because there are much that young people could actually learn from those who are experts like yourself.
Well, I think I have an answer for that. I said
Yes,
I would ask them where they are good at and explore what school would give them the best fundamentals,
yes,
exposure to the field of choice and challenges.
yes,
Through as I said, through summer internship, they'll be exposed to working environment that will develop time management, learn to comply to office rules and regulation, and develop skills and get the experiences they need to. So that's all I can say as far as uh, for our young kababayan there. Na there are there are a lot of needs for technical people, and 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 they can just observe it if they watch the news or if they read the news. It's all over that everywhere you go, they need uh, technical people in all fields. In all.
yes. So also as an aside, our producer in the program, Miss Kathy Cruz, is relatives with attorney Sigismundo Cruz. Do you know him, sir? He's a Palanca Award-winning writer from the Philippines. Are you related?
Maybe, maybe, but no. But I have, I have a nephew,
Mhm.
Kevin Cruz, who is working for a World Bank. He's an economist. He,
Yes.
they just gave a report about the Philippines, and I told him, Kevin, all your reports are very good,
Yes.
He's suggesting about what the government can do. But the thing there is, it's up to the government if they want to adopt and implement your recommendations. So, but yes, I am sorry. They may be a distant relative, Miss Kathy Cruz. It's
Yes.
nice to it's nice to know it's nice to know her.
Yes. And so maybe we could have the chance to meet also some of your relatives, as you mentioned, because we're always interested to feature and interview some interesting personalities and experts in different fields of study. So you mentioned about your nephew, Kevin Cruz. So he's based in Washington, D.C. right now, sir.
No, he's not. He is in the Philippines
Oh,
for a World Bank.
yes.
He works for a World Bank in the Philippines.
Okay. So maybe we'll try to contact him, sir.
I can. I will. I if I may give him a heads up information that he may receive a call from you
Yes.
in the near future. So don't be surprised.
Yes, that's good. We will try to contact Miss Kathy Cruz because it seems you are relatives. So with that, sir, so thank you so much for giving us your valuable time. We know that there's a lot in terms of what we could learn in the field. There's not enough time always. So we wish you the best and you
Well, thank
take
you
it
very much.
insofar as your work is concerned. I think Miss Cathy Cruz is coming from the family of Mr. Alberto Segismundo Cruz. That's what she says. So maybe distant relatives.
Maybe I can do a lineage history, and maybe I may discover that Kathy and I are of the same lineage.
Yes, very good, sir. And so I look forward. I hope to visit you again in Oak Ridge if I have the chance. I found like my visit there so very interesting, and of course something that is really of interest in the education field for us always to be knowledgeable about science and technology. So thank you so much, sir. We will contact you again in a
Oh
separate
yes.
invitation. We will send it to you now as soon as
Okay.
we finish our recording. So thank you so much, and we'll be right back.